I used to wake up each morning in a house that no longer felt like home. After my wife passed away, the silence grew so thick it almost had weight. I'd walk past her empty chair, her half-read books, the sweater she left draped over the couch months ago. I couldn't bring myself to move any of it, as if preserving her touch might somehow keep the grief from flooding me completely. Most days, I barely spoke. I went to work, nodded at colleagues, answered emails like a ghost tapping away behind a screen. Then I came home and stared out the window until night fell. The world continued moving, but I couldn't. My heart was stuck in a loop of what-ifs and why-nows. I didn't even notice how small my life had become. It was Mrs. Ellery, my neighbor from across the hall. She was in her 70s, always wearing a patterned cardigan and soft smile. She held a bird cage in both hands, a small, delicate thing with thin golden bars. Inside sat a quiet yellow canary, puffed up and still, watching everything with dark, curious eyes. She said she was going to visit her daughter for a few weeks and asked if I could watch the bird. I hesitated. I hadn't taken care of anything in months, but something in her gaze, calm and steady, made it hard to say no. So I said yes. The first night, I placed the bird cage on the windowsill. The little creature didn't sing or move much, just tilted its head side to side as if trying to understand me. I watched it more than I realized. There was something hauntingly familiar about it. Maybe it was the way it flinched at shadows or how it stayed close to the same perch, wings twitching but never opening. By the third day, feeding it became my routine. Talking to it felt less strange. I even started naming it in my head, never aloud. I called it Lumen. Something about that tiny yellow body reminded me of light, a fragile kind of hope. But something else started growing in me, something unexpected. Every time I saw that bird flutter within its tiny prison, a pang hit me deep in the chest. It wasn't just the bird that was caged, I was too. Both of us trapped in patterns we didn't ask for, circling the same space, wings unused, and yet I still couldn't open the cage. Not yet. The days passed, and the bird began to sing. It was faint at first, more like a breath than a melody. But each morning, I'd hear it, soft, uncertain notes drifting into the quiet, like little reminders that something inside me hadn't completely shut down. I began to wonder if the bird had always been able to sing, or if it needed time. Just like I did, one afternoon, I went to check on it and found it clinging to the side of the cage, wings fluttering against the bars. There was desperation in the way it moved, a panic I hadn't seen before. I opened the cage door out of instinct, but the bird didn't fly out. It just froze there, staring at the opening, as if unsure it could really go through. I stood still for what felt like forever, watching it tremble. Then I gently closed the door. I didn't know why I did that. Maybe I was afraid it would leave. Maybe I wasn't ready to let it go. Maybe I was scared of what that choice would mean for both of us. That night, I had a dream. I was holding her hand again, my wife, standing in a sunlit field with wind brushing through her hair. She wasn't saying anything, just looking at me, but in her eyes, I could feel the message, let go. The next morning, I knocked on Mrs. Ellery's door. She had come back earlier than planned. She smiled, noticing the empty cage in my hands. She didn't ask any questions, just nodded as if she already knew. I told her what happened. How I had watched the bird for days, how it had sung to me, how it had stared at the open door and hesitated, and how I had finally walked to the park at sunrise, opened the cage, and waited. The bird looked at me once, then it flew. And I cried, not out of sorrow, but because something in me lifted with it. Mrs. Ellery sat beside me on the bench and placed her hand gently on mine. She said that sometimes we think we're honoring someone by holding on. But really, love often lives in the letting go. But now I also walk into the sunlight more often. I speak to people, I listen for birdsong, and some mornings, when the air is still and soft, I swear I hear lumens singing from a tree nearby. Because some cages are made of sorrow, and some doors can only be opened from within. If this story made you pause, even for a moment, to think about what truly matters, then maybe, like me, you're ready to stop chasing and start living. If it touched you, feel free to like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more stories that help us grow together.